Welcome to the Leading Conversations podcast, sponsored by the Excel Leadership Network. On each episode, JD Pairing will have conversations with church planting pastors and leaders from around the country. You can learn more about how to connect with Excel at the end of this podcast. Let's join JD now and listen in on this leading conversation.
Welcome to the Excel Leading Conversations podcast. And we're so excited today. Our conversation today is with the delightful, the dandy, the legendary Daniel Nunez from Tijuana, Mexico. Daniel, thank you for being here.
A pleasure to be here, JD. Thank you for having me.
I'm really looking forward to asking you a few questions about your story. Let's just start right out. I know you grew up in Tijuana. How did you come to faith in Christ?
I was invited to go and play basketball and volleyball against my family, a lot of cousins and my brother. And we went to a church of the Nazarene to play basketball against the church kids.
Were you any good? You any good at basketball? I know baseball is your sport. Were you any good?
I was okay at basketball. I was better at baseball. So yeah. So that night we were asked to come back for a church youth service actually, and I ended up coming back. I was the only one from my family that came back for that service, and from there I've been in church ever since. So that's how I came to Christ. I came to know the church, and then maybe a year later is when I really got to meet Christ and in a personal way. But I was already attending church every week. Mm-hmm.
And you stepped into ministry pretty closely after that, right? Did you kind of always have this desire once you began?
Yes. Well, maybe because I was in church for almost a year before I became a believer. People saw me there very faithfully and that really knew that I was not a believer, not that I was hiding. I didn't know any differently. But yeah, as soon as Yoli and I got married, we were thrown into the leadership, like a youth pastors, youth leaders, at least. So they don't use that title here in Mexico for a youth pastor. Usually it's just a youth leader. And that's what I was. You know, I got baptized in September. And by the end of the year, my wife and I were leading. I mean, it was a small church. It went through a church split as well. So there were not too many people left to put in different positions. So they put me in as a youth leader. Yeah.
Now, what made you get into full-time ministry, or just doing that a little bit more in a significant way?
What made me get into
full-time you were doing the youth leader thing, but I think you continued your education and you were thinking about going further with it, right?
Yeah, so I was working full time all the time, and I felt the call to be a pastor, and I went to Bible school while I was working full time in San Diego. I would come back in the afternoon to Tijuana and go to Bible school, and then after that, graduated, and then went through some challenges in leadership. The church where I was, and I ended up going to a Bible college in San Diego while I was working full time, and then I ended up taking over a church in El Nino, and from there I was still working full time, and then working the church, and then at some point I was working full time in San Diego, pastoring two churches, El Nino and Rojo Gomez, and then ended up, the Rojo Gomez Church to Abraham, and then ultimately started working full time in the ministry, and took over the El Nino Church. So now I'm leading the pastors, the whole organization full time.
Well, you went through a lot there. I know it wasn't that easy for you. There was a new church that was starting, and you thought you were going to be the guy.
Yes. Well, my church planted a church in the El Nino community, and when I went there, we kind of built it with garage doors like everybody else was doing in the community. But when they decided to install a pastor, I was in that church for 12 years, recently graduated from Bible school, and they ended up sending a guy that was there for 6 months. And that was was a real challenge because I was kind of put like kind of discipline in some kind of way, but I was never told. They just put me on the side, and it was just a life lesson, life school that I ended up being there for 2 years, which is when I took the time to go to Bible college in San Diego. But yeah, it was everybody was telling me that I needed to be in El Nino, that I should be the one. Talk to your pastor and tell him that you're the one that needs to be there. And I submitted. A year and a half later, almost 2 years, the other guy was removed, and I ended up taking it over anyway. But it was God's plan, not my way of doing it, and with my strength. It was just God opening the door, and people were right. I was supposed to be there, but I ended up just helping, just being obedient to my pastor and setting an example for everybody else there.
That must have been a pretty tough time.
It was. I mean, it was very challenging in the fact that the pastor's wife was really mean to me. She ended up, even after we took over the church, very reluctantly, they set me up. Yoli. Even after being set up in El Nino as a pastor, there was challenges with the church that reluctantly sent me to El Nino, but they had no choice because the calling was so strong, and God was really making them feel that that's what they should do, but they were still resisting that for whatever reason. But when they sent me, they ended up having me, basically they cut all the friendship with me and everything. So it was very tough. And I was searching for a father. I was searching for a spiritual father. I was searching for a pastor, but they basically said, hey, you're on your own, and that's it. So that time was really tough on me personally, because I felt like my leader was not supporting me. My pastor, I didn't have a pastor anymore, so I was on my own. But God helped me through that, and got some people around me as we started, the ministry growing and growing. So God has provided a lot of people like JD and others to help me through all this process.
Well, you're pastoring this church in El Nino, and it's growing. And then how did the one up the way in Rojo Gomez get started? Because that was the first one, wasn't it? Was that number one?
That was actually that was supposed to be number one, because back in 05, in 06, in around March of 2006, we're driving by the Rojo Gomez community, which is about 10 minutes from El Nino, and we saw an empty lot. And I was with some people from Riverside, and I said, hey, you know what? We want to plant a church in this community. And they said, where? I don't know. There's an empty lot there. Let's go and pray. So we went and prayed over the land. It was like five lots together at that point. And we went and prayed over the land. We had some gifts, some stuff, some old shoes, whatever, used shoes. And we gave them all to the community. There was 100 people that came to that empty property, vacant property. And I started preaching, and I just said, we're going to build a church here. And everybody looked at me like crazy, like, you're crazy, where? And I don't know where, but 2 weeks later, I was driving by, and there's one of the 4 lots for sale, and we purchased it and built the Rojo Gomez Church. And the reason why that was number one was because Pastor Mauro came in and said, hey, I'm going to start plant a church, and I'm going to rent an old video store. And that kind of, since he rented, we didn't have to wait until it was built. That became church number one on Easter of 2006. And then Memorial Day weekend, we ended up with Rojo Gomez. But Rojo Gomez was the first church that we built.
Now, if you're ever driving in Baja with Daniel, and he sees an empty lot, you're gonna pull over. You're going to get out, and you're going to pray over that empty lot, for God to give Daniel the lot, and then they'll build a church and plant a church on it. So
Yeah.
you went from
I
one
actually,
to three, and then you got a vision for a little bit more. Tell us about that.
yes, we were in a. I was going to say that I was going to almost interrupt you, but I was kind enough. I didn't interrupt you, but I have pictures on my phone of every single for sale sign on lots that I see. So I'm doing that right now. With wherever I go,
Wow.
because I'm always looking, especially when you get calls from the Father's house saying we're going to build 3 churches next year. So I have to have all the properties ready. So one night, we were in a men's conference in El Nino, and the preacher said, write down on a piece of paper something that you want to accomplish in your life, but you need God's help for. You can do it alone. And I just wrote on a napkin. Basically, I wrote down, plant 50 churches in my lifetime. And it was in Spanish, so it was 50. So we started, that was in November of 2005. And then 2006, we started building basically 3 churches every year up until now.
Tell us about, you said it was in Spanish. You wrote down 50.
Yes.
But it means more than that, right?
Well, 50, if you break it down, it's a famous, in Mexico, in Spanish, we say, how many stars are there? Then we say 50, which is without count. So whenever you say 50, means, it doesn't mean 50, it means without count. So I understood 50, and I wrote down 50, the number 5 and the 0. And I thought I understood God saying 50 churches, which is a lot of churches. So yeah, that's probably right. That's almost impossible for me, and I need God's help to do it. So that's when people started seeing that it was going fast, it was going, and they started saying, "Oh, you misunderstood God. God didn't say 50 as in 50 as in 50. God said 50 as in without count." And now we're getting close to 50, and without count, it means right now 500 churches. That is the new goal, the new vision, that we want to plant 500 churches. So it was 50 at the end of the day, without count.
Wow. When I first met you, you had planted 14 churches, and I invited you to come to the Discovery Center. By the time you came, you had planted 17 churches. So when you came to the Discovery Center, we reluctantly gave you a green light. He's already done 17. What are we going to say? No, you can't do this. But talk to us a little bit about how that vision got expanded, because you've been saying for years that when you hit 50, you had your own plan, which was to...
Yeah, I still do.
I
still do. My plan still going to Cancun after 50. That's still my plan, but God changed it a little bit. I've been investing my life, and I realized that even for 50 churches, which I never realized, I never thought we were going to accomplish in my lifetime. Maybe my son will finish it. Maybe my grandkids will finish 50 churches. But when we started building 3 or 4 every year, and because don't only come in and rent or just start, anywhere. We can actually build a church. So we partner with American churches that come, and for $27,000, you can build a church on a weekend. So that's what we're doing. Of course, there's a lot more than just coming on a weekend and building a church to plant a church, but at least we get that part covered by the different teams that come. So the new vision, I mean, spending investing a lot of time in our team, which is Edson, Turi, Abraham, Giovanni. They're all, Tomas and Pastor Luis, Pastor Victor. They're all under 40. Most of them are under 40 years old, and it's such a blessing to be able to spend time with them. And as I start looking at being 60 next year and planting 50 churches, getting to 50, it's like, okay, if we're gonna do 500, then we're gonna need to spend time with people that will continue this vision. And so blessed to have my son as part of the team, and Edson and Abraham and Giovanni, which are the younger ones that have 2, and even Victor. But Luis and Tomas are a little older, so I know that they bring a lot of stuff to the table. But I'm trusting the new generation that they went to a conference, and when they came back, they said, Pastor Daniel, I know God has called you to plant 50 churches, but and we had been called to help you get there, but now God is calling us to plant churches as well. So our calling from God is that we're going to plant churches, but 50 is just the beginning. We're going to plant 500 churches. And that's how it came about. It came from the new generation of pastors, because I honestly thought by the time I get to 50, I'm going to be 70 or 80 years old. But I'm literally just retired at that point. But since we're getting there, hopefully next year, then we need to keep going.
So you set this goal of 50, which is now 500. But on the goal of 50, where are you right now?
On the goal of 50, on Memorial Day weekend, we built church number 46. And in 47 will be built on September 11th weekend. Brand new church, brand new connection on fire. And it's so great to see a Lutheran church coming and giving life to another church, which I don't see that too often, at least not here in Mexico. So that's 47 coming up on September 11th weekend, and after that we will be working in Sinaloa, and church number 48 and 49. We hope that they'll be in Sinaloa. So we're going to be building them little by little. Maybe in November and December we'll be dedicating those two churches. Right now,
by the way, let me just stop you there for a second. I always get a kick out of it when I introduce you and say, yeah, here's Daniel. He has a goal of planting 50 churches. And everybody gives me this look like, yeah, that's a great goal. Sure, 50. What's he on? 2? And you tell them, no, we're doing 47 next month, and then 48, and then 49. So it's like, oh my goodness. But tell us about the plans then for number 50.
Okay, so 48 and 49 will be in Sinaloa. And in the beginning of next year, I'm going to be turning 60. And my wife asked me, what do you want to do on your 60th birthday? Because I know you like parties, birthday parties, you like piñatas, you like cake, you like everybody there. What is your plan for next year?
Hey, before you get there, let me just say, Daniel really likes parties. If you ever go to a restaurant, and they sing happy birthday, and it's just so annoying, and you think, who likes that? The answer is Daniel Nunez. He loves it. And what's your average number of cakes you get? I mean, every night, you don't do your birthday or even your birth week. You do the birth month.
There's 30 days in January, so I probably get about 15 different parties with 15 different people, different groups, whether I'm in Cuba, whether I'm in Northern California or home. There's always somebody want to celebrate with me, because they know that's what I like, and that's what I like for this coming out birthday number 60. But it's gonna be in January 28th. So hopefully you guys can come here. My wife asked me, what do you want to do? And I said, I want everybody there, and I want people to help us. I don't need a gift. Well, maybe a coffee or a coffee maker would work. But mainly, the main gift that I want is people contributing to church number 50. We're going to be building, hopefully, and we already started the fundraising for church number 50. And if we have everything lined up before the actual birthday party, which is not going to be more than my birthday party, it's going to be celebration of 50 churches. And we hope that we can dedicate the church on the Saturday around noon, 1 or 2 o'clock. And then if it's close enough to El Niño, to go and celebrate my birthday there. But just celebrate everybody that has helped us get there. The pastors that are pastoring the churches, the people that have helped us with money, the people that have coached me and supported me personally and my family. So you guys are all invited to come on that day. And that whole week, if you want to come and work on the church, Actually, we're going to be working all week, prepping everything for the. My goal is that we can have the parsonage, a classroom, and a church and bathrooms, so we can build all that in 1 week.
And if you are somebody who likes to go and work, it's great. I love to go down to Tijuana with Daniel and not work, but to take him and some of the leaders out for tacos, some great food down there. That's my contribution is, hey, let me go down and take care of the leaders while they get other people to work. So, hey,
and that's very important. Yeah.
Daniel, thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for being such an inspiration to so many of us, for somebody who took seriously God's vision. And not only are you hitting that, you're expanding on that. Let me ask you this one last question. If you had a leadership tip for any of us, just you look at us as leaders, those listening to this podcast, what would your leadership tip be?
I think never stop learning. Never stop learning. That's so important. Don't think that you know everything. I mean, here with my pastors here, and I know it's everywhere, but I deal with my pastors, and they kind of think that they know it all because they've been pastors for a week, or 5 years, or 16 years. But just be teachable. Just keep learning, and keep just serving God with humbleness. Don't get a big head. So that's the thing. I met with two pastors this morning. One of them is Isla Tijuana, and the other one is La Fuente, which is another big church here. And I just told them, hey, Brian told us we have to find somebody that will speak to us, and I'm giving you permission. You guys can talk to me and tell me what you see in me, what I need to correct and all that. So I gave him permission to do that. But that's it. Just for me, it's so hard to find those people because everybody's one of my pastors, and they're not going to tell me off, or they're not going to tell me what's wrong with me or what I should do differently. But just to be teachable. That's the main question. The main advice that I can give.
Well, thank you for that advice. I said that was going to be the last question. I have one more. You've planted 46 on your way to 50 churches, and we look at that here in America, here in the U.S., and say, "Oh wow, this guy's a real hero." But that hasn't been easy in your context, has it? Multiplication is not something that's very natural in ministry. It's not natural in the U.S., but even worse in Mexico. Speak to that.
Yes. It's so hard to convey this vision or this calling to plant churches, because it involves, like everywhere else, it involves spending time with people, training them, and then sending them out. And not a lot of people are willing to do that. Once they're under them, as I'm the pastor and you're under me, you stay here until, if you live here and you want to plant a church, you have to do it. I mean, 90% of the churches here in Mexico, or maybe more, are planted out of church splits. Nobody is sent out. So we are different. And of course, for doing that, a lot of people hate me here in Mexico. JD says it best. In America, everybody loves Daniel. In Mexico, everybody hates Daniel. And the reason why that is because they feel threatened. They feel that there's a competition. And even on their own network, they feel threatened that I'm going to take their leaders and send them out. So it's actually, I respect that. But you pray for me and our ministry. Just pray for open doors, that we can connect with other organizations and keep doing this, because the pastors, I have a couple of churches that pastors are pastoring too, because they're not going to let others take over and all that. So that's the difficult part. It's sending out. It's not something they do, or church planting is not very common. So for somebody that's doing it, whether they're threatened or just feel, just they don't have that vision. So I had to understand that God gave me this vision to plant 50 churches, but has not given it to everybody or everyone. So I know I have to be patient that way, and I still make enemies, but my wife, it affects my wife a lot, but for me it's okay. I just go through it, but just pray for her, because she doesn't like me to have enemies. But I don't care if I have enemies, if I'm doing the right thing, which is sending leaders, planting churches. And if they don't like me for that, well, they have to fix that with God or talk to God about that, not with me.
Well, Daniel, thank you for your resilience. I'm so thankful for you and Yoli, and for you doing something that's very, very difficult. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining the Leading Conversations podcast. We hope that you found it both helpful and encouraging. At Excel Leadership Network, our focus is on the church planter rather than the church. If you'd like to find out more about us, visit our webpage at excelnetwork.org. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. See you next time with another Leading Conversation.